Hi, welcome everybody. This is Small Biz Sunday. I have Jeff Palter here with Cycle Loft of Burlington, Mass. And Jeff, I'm going to let you take it away. How did you start Cycle Loft, and give us a little bit about who you are?
Hey, Jonathan, thanks for having me on your program. So CycleLoft, we've been around, the brand has been around since 1976. So I actually bought the store in 2006 from the existing owner at that time. And so this is our 15th season under my ownership. So that'll make 45 years for the brand in the local
Wow.
area at the end of the season.
So pretty established brand then.
Yeah, as I say, 15 years ago, the train was well on its tracks, headed down at a pretty good clip. And that was one of the attractive things about buying the business from the retiring owner who had been in the business for, 30 years, had started it at that time and got it up to a good clip for sure.
That's awesome. So what made you pursue the buying of Cycle Loft?
So at that time, a few years before, I'd been in the bike business for, 17 odd years off and on. And going back to graduate school at Babson College, I got my MBA in entrepreneurship. And when I graduated in 2002, put out the feelers that I wanted to open a business or buy a business. And then after working in the car business for about 30 months after graduation, my family got a phone call from an accountant who was the same accountant for ourselves, but also for the business. And he mentioned that one of his clients, the then owner of the bike shop, was selling, and would I be interested in talking about, potential buyout of that. And so that's how that came to be. One of those right time, right place situations.
How did you fund it? What did you had you made enough in the car business?
I had made a goodly amount in the car business,
Yeah.
enough to be able to show a bank that I had some reserves. But January 26, about 4:30 p.m., I signed a gigantic loan. Honestly, is how it was funded. TD Bank underwrote it with help from the SBA.
Wow.
That started with it.
What was that process like?
It took about 6 months between hearing about
Yeah.
the opportunity, uh, countless meetings, spreadsheets, agonizing phone calls, working with the bank. So it took about 6 months. It was pretty arduous. I'd never done anything like it before, but it was the biggest MBA project I'd ever done.
Yeah.
At that point, for sure. So yeah, it was pretty complicated. The closing documents are like, a phone book
Yeah.
thick. So yeah, it was pretty crazy at the time to sign away that kind of dough.
Did you think you knew what you were getting into did you take a hard look at the financials in terms of what exactly was going on? What was type of the process, kind of vetting the situation?
Well, fortunately, I was working with the same accounting firm that I was familiar with.
Okay.
We had a great contact there. The seller's contact had been with them for about 13 years. So we had some rigorous numbers.
Yeah.
Only there was some unpacking because every business owner does some interesting things with their books and whatnot and expenses. And I had a couple of models, a couple of friends of mine from Babson helped me out with some modeling of some spreadsheets.
Nice.
And we saw what the worst case scenarios were. But in answer to your real question, which was, did I have any idea? I thought I did. But reality is far different and, was far different than what it turned out to be on paper, especially because this was 2006. So 2006 was a great year. 2007, 2008 were historical highs. No, well, we didn't feel the bubble until 2009. But ever since 2009, it was just a roller coaster. Literally every year, down, up, and it took 10 years to break that trend, which was 18, 19. We had our first 2 years that we were
Of
up.
growth?
No, well, so 2008 was an up year.
Yeah.
9 down, 10 up, 11, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Literally until 17 was down, 18 was up, 19 was up, and now we have 20,
20. Yeah.
which is
It's been a
up right now, but it's it's not pleasant right now in the market.
So 2006 now to 2020, that's 14 years of you truly owning the business.
Yep.
And during those up and down years, what really kept you going? I mean, I guess you're committed. You'd have to be, right? But what really kept you from pursuing other possibilities or even going back to a job?
Well, in those first 10 plus years, it was certainly massive financial commitment to lenders. And then even once I finally paid off my initial note, which took, I don't know, somewhere 10 plus years, right under 11 years. I had, a lease that I was going through. So that was 10 years. And then just the opportunity that still presented itself. Businesses have up and down years. People got paid, right?
Yeah.
So it's not that the business didn't have value to it.
Sure.
But so what kept me going was just the notion that it was, and it's still an incredibly good long-term opportunity for myself and my family, and all the people that we employ. And so around 2013, I started looking for a new location. So the location that I'm in right now, which I moved in 2016 or end of 2015 rather.
Sure.
We actually looked at 3 years in advance. So I had already committed to moving almost 3 years in advance of the actual move.
And where was the first location?
First location was properly in Burlington on the 3A, Cambridge Street, where it had been there had been a bike shop there since the 50s. And this store was there in a new location, since 82, so it was there for a long time. It was quite established in the community. But it became apparent with relationships with landlords, and because the landlord was also the person I bought the business from.
Oh, okay. So he had owned the whole space.
Yeah, he had owned the whole space. So I learned a lot about him over the years. And
good or bad?
Not what they were supposed to be. Not what they were initially chalked up to be. And so I wonder, Jerry, are you listening? Jerry, if you're out there, I hope you're doing okay. He won't be listening, I'm sure, to this.
Is he older?
Yeah, he's got to be almost 80.
Wow.
At this point. Yeah.
Wow.
I think he was about 65 when he sold it. So yeah, there was not a lot of choice I guess suppose there was choice, but it was still a good choice, to go into a new location and new opportunity and see what the business could really do. And of course, challenges are everywhere, these days.
Of course.
But here we are, 2020 going into 2021 at this point.
Yeah. And what made you move to this new location? What did you see from it? What did you not see from the previous location?
So the previous location was pretty, as far as retail goes, was pretty odd. Mm-hmm. It was a 2-story, it was actually a 4-story building that had 2 elevators in it and a big grand staircase in it. So a lot of added elevator expense, a lot of time wasted going up and down in elevators.
Yeah.
2-floor retail was really tough because, for instance, our service center was on the top floor and first floor was retail, but there were days when no one came in, but I still had someone on the first floor.
Yeah.
There were days where the bottom floor was swamped with customers, but so many of the employees were working on the floor above. So very, very inefficient. Parking was terrible. Ride to location was terrible. Riding from that location was terrible. So it was just time to move. And luckily, I had a good network of people that found a location, in fact, only about 2.5 miles from the old location, which with better everything. One
Yeah,
floor, no elevator, plenty of parking, plenty of test riding, ride to, ride from, just much significantly better location for retail.
that's awesome. That's cool. That's a good move. I think there's a lot of good thinking behind that, and it's important to understand that, I think, as a small business owner. So good on your part.
Thanks.
Now, I'm curious. I don't know much about the cycle industry and the bicycle industry. What is it like owning an actual bicycle shop? So obviously you're selling bicycles, and I imagine you make money off of repairs.
Hmm.
So I'm curious, is there any more to it than that? As I'm probably sure there is, like accessories and such. And what do you usually make most of your money on? Is it the repairs? Is it the selling new bicycles?
Well, I think that that to understand the bicycle business,
Yeah.
in effect, is to understand specialty retail. That could be ski, that could be camping,
Mhm.
um, it could be anything outdoor. As an example,
Yeah.
it could be cameras.
Yeah.
It could be a firearm shop. Whatever it is. The reality of the situation is that however many transactions we do, whether it's 100 or whether it's 100,000, is every number of transactions are all custom transactions for each individual client. Even if we sell 100 of the same bike, each one is different.
Mm.
Someone wants a different bell, they want different streamers, they want different handlebars, they're different heights, they're different weights.
Yeah.
Some people know what's going on, some people don't know what's going on. It's one of the last remaining probably cottage specialty industries that hasn't been homogenized like a big box, Best Buy, or something like that. But
Oh, okay.
even that
Yeah.
to an extent is harder than it looks. I mean, go to an Apple store, for instance, and talk to one of their new associates. It takes forever to be able to be a full-fledged, not even genius, but one of those full-fledged people that's walking around with like the keys and all the little
Yeah.
strings, and they got the one phone and they're on the headset and they're who knows who they're talking to. It is really, really complicated. And because bicycles themselves are fairly complex, especially how they've blown out in terms of iterations and experiences and styles and models and
Of course.
technology, it can be very overwhelming
Yeah.
in that regard. So it's really complicated because it is specialty retail. It's like a car dealership where you have sales, you have pre-sales, you have post-sales, you have service, just many layers to
Wow.
it. So what is it like for the level that we're doing it at, which is, without sounding like a complete ass, is a national, nationally recognized level of support and breadth and volume.
Yeah.
It's complicated.
Yeah.
It's really complicated. There's no sugarcoating it in
And
that regard.
so, yeah, that's extreme. I actually didn't know all of that. I would imagine that the overhead to even bring in all of the different customization aspects in terms of seat, streamers, like you said, handlebars, is probably immense to the point where you're not even sure if it might pay off because someone might not use that customization, right?
Yeah, I mean, you've got to make your bets and evaluate different things and look at this grip or that seat and see whether it can sell in volume. The good
Yeah.
news is that with the internet and with our connectedness to our different vendors, there is virtually an endless aisle opportunity e-commerce wise. So we don't have to carry everything in store, but there is an overwhelming amount. You couldn't possibly have a physical store that
Sure.
had everything because
Yeah.
the number of individual stock keeping units is it's overwhelming.
Yeah.
Same with any other sporting good or specialty
Yeah.
aspect.
Yeah. I would imagine a gun store would probably be that way too. Um, Now, how do you have an e-commerce store attached to CycleLoft? Is there an online website where you can buy?
There is. So,
Yeah.
so when I took over the company in 2006, that was back in the day where people still had, I suppose at that time they were webmasters or web mistresses, and there were people writing code,
Yeah.
and building sites from who knows
Scratch.
where.
Yeah.
From scratch.
HTML.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And weird email servers and the whole nine yards.
AOL dial up.
Yeah. Uh, but right from the beginning, there was a company in our industry called Smart E-tailing, and they provided a somewhat homogenized background platform that was gathering all the information from vendors that would participate. And then retailers like myself would turn this site on, customize it to an extent so it was individualized,
Yeah.
then be able to plug all of this vendor data and content onto a site and just turn on a cart right away.
Wow.
So we've had e-commerce capability probably, I don't know, for 10 plus years, but it obviously hasn't been as great as it's been in the last year or two, but certainly in the last, 5. It was never really big, but then all this omni-channel stuff, which you may have read about, let people shop where they want, when they want, how they want, pick up in store. And then different things have come into the industry in terms of the ability to have our vendors drop ship directly to you, but it has my address on it. I get paid on it.
Yeah.
All those things. So the industry, and some vendors more than others, have done their part to join this e-commerce revolution, as it were, in terms of getting people stuff how they want it. The only added thing is that we're not, the Amazon, we're not eBay, and so people they put in their order right now, especially these days, and then they call a half an hour later, or they just show up. And haven't even gotten to the order because a real human being who doesn't work 24 hours a day has to process the order, go over to the shelf, get it, put it in a bag, put a label on it, put it on the shelf. It's hysterical and mind-blowingly frustrating at the same time.
So they just order from your site and then they come into the store thinking it's going to be ready? What is that conversation like?
Did you get the email that the order was ready? I got an email.
Yeah.
You got an email that the order was received and that it was in process. Let me see what I can do, and then it's a fire drill to, try and satisfy them and get them done because they're at the store already. But yeah, weird stuff, frauds, things like that. People from across the country, especially at this time, really, really strange amount of volume just off the charts with COVID these days.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. So drop shipping, if people don't know, that's like saying, I'll take my store, Blendie, for example. If I wanted to offer a water bottle that I actually didn't have in warehouse, what I would do is if someone went to Blendie Blender and then they order that water bottle, I would then go to, let's say, Amazon or eBay or even one of my, suppliers, right, that Jeff, you probably have. And then I would say, okay, yes, I order it for them. And then this is the address to send it to. And then it gets sent to their address. And then they pay me. And then obviously I paid that supplier. So it's a really cool method. There's a whole basically community of drop shippers where they take stuff from China off of AliExpress and then they ship it to America through Shopify stores. It's kind of not right, I would say, in some ways, because you're thinking it's from an American company, but regardless, it's interesting. So how much now, Jeff, do you think that e-commerce makes of your business versus the retail aspect?
Oh, it's still it's still only 1 or 2%.
Wow. So it's not much.
It's not much, relatively speaking.
Yeah.
But the number that's interesting more so, is the relative year-over-year growth. From pre-COVID to now. It's well over 100. It's hundreds of percents greater.
That's amazing.
Than it was last year, year over year, and probably will continue to be.
Yeah.
While different states, different stores operating differently. It's really turned into a test of how good is the e-commerce platform. And even from the vendors' perspective, they've been under massive pressure
to
make fast improvements and it's shown its weaknesses, and they've made improvements, and they've continued on with it. So if my friend Ryan Atkinson from Smart E-Tailing is watching, you are doing a great job. But yeah, it's been astronomical this year. Some days, the combination of telephones, emails, e-commerce, and then people physically at the store,
Overwhelming.
even with curbside, is like you go home and you go, is the phone ringing somewhere? Because I hear a phone. I hear a phone. Just, for us, it's a lot. And I know other stores around the country are having the same experience.
But being busy is always good, especially during this time we're living in now. That's for
Yeah,
sure.
I mean, my heart goes out to friends that are in the restaurant business. The
Yes.
local inn in our town, and obviously it's just shuttered and dark.
Yeah.
And I suppose it's tough all over, and I don't know whether it's better to be in the overwhelm and chaos that we are in, but generating revenue, or being in some known situation where you go, well, I guess
That's
this
it.
isn't going to work, and I'm going to just completely pull the plug and
Yeah.
move on. I mean, to some extent, that has some finality, which for each person, I'm sure, is a different way to deal with it. But yeah, there's no getting around the fact that it's a tough situation everywhere, and other businesses are worse off, for sure, and that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Completely.
I know I've been seeing some in Boston. I think at least 2 or 3 restaurants, bars that have closed down. And it's interesting. And then you read the comments, you're like, wow, I can't believe this shut down. You know what I mean? Yada, yada.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know what to say. There's not much to say. I guess it is what it is. There's opportunity, I suppose, coming off of this, which could be good for new entrepreneurs, but it's still sad to see.
Yeah, no, it's tough, and unfortunately, not to make it anybody's fault, because it's no one's fault. It's the situation that we're in, driven by the pandemic, and consumers, I think, are not, because we've all been in this, at least, right? You're in Massachusetts, so
Yeah, Boston.
everybody's been shut in and shut down, and state by state, everybody's got a different experience. I talk to people that are coming to the area, a woman from Florida, and it's weird. No, no mask. Everybody's at normal and usual, and
Yeah.
obviously there's consequences to that. But here in Massachusetts, it's still really, really difficult, and consumers may not understand fully what a business is going through. And some people are taking it in the right stride, and they're saying, wow, I want to go out to my favorite restaurant to have outdoor seating, as long as it's not raining, I'm going for it. Unfortunately, I think people are not really getting what's happening for people that are running businesses during this time. Good or bad, with the business, but it's very, very interesting. Some people have no idea how difficult the situation has been, because in many cases they're at home working from home, and it's not that different.
Yeah.
And we're not in a state where obviously there's a lot of hospitality, and I haven't spoken to any of those people, but I don't even know what that is like.
Yeah. That's it's unfortunate. I don't even know how hotels and things of that nature are staying afloat, especially in the East Coast.
Yeah, all the PPP loans,
Yeah.
with millions of dollars, I'm sure.
Yeah. I've heard some small business owners say that they didn't even get one. And so they had to close, which is incredible to me. That's
it was quite a process. And from our perspective in our little industry, and I'm sure this is for many outdoor things,
yeah.
many outdoor companies, we really thought that everything was just going to shut down.
Yeah.
I mean, April was terrible.
I know.
And we really thought that it was just going to be the end. Some of the vendors canceled orders of bikes because they thought that everybody was going to be out of work, stopping working, and not spending at all. And now it's completely turned out to be the opposite in our industry, and in a lot of outdoor, right? People are talking about pools and things, for the summer.
Yeah. Well, I think that cycling gives a way for people to actually get out of the house, and maybe that
Right,
was one
right,
of the
right, right.
reasons,
Yeah,
for such demand.
we didn't think about it.
Yeah.
No one really thought about it, and then it just started occurring and naturally happening. We saw it with kids' bikes to begin with, and now it's just gone through, virtually every category of bikes. It's
Yeah.
really, really quite strange for a business student. It's going to make some incredible cases for, forecasting, and what do you do when you simply can't satisfy demand, and how long will the demand last? How long is it going to take before supply catches up? It's going to be quite a situation to live through the next 9 months.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see what new companies come out of this, through the fire, so to speak, to
Yeah.
see, what happens. But
What do you think about that? What do you think, who's going to come through? Do you think just people
I
in
don't
different
know.
businesses, or different
So
technologies, or just new businesses in existing spaces?
I think what we've seen is that, you have, like, let's take Airbnb, for example. That model was untouchable. They were like the unicorn, right?
Right.
Now they're laying off thousands of people. Same with like Wayfair, huge company, just laid off 1,000 people in their Boston location.
Yeah.
So you have these massive companies that were regarded as, unicorns, these amazing companies, and now they're faltering because of this flawed model that worked so well, before coronavirus.
Yeah.
But now you see companies like Instacart, where they just added to their valuation some absurd number. Now they're worth 12 billion. They're probably going to prep for some IPO coming up. Oh, and then you had Blue Apron, right? So Blue Apron was like a penny stock, $2-3. Right when this thing happened, people started ordering from home. They shot up all the way to, I think, $12, maybe $20. And let alone just the number of the amount of money you get from that stock appreciating, all the way down to the individual investors making money from that, is just immense. So there's been opportunity for existing companies, but there's also been, loss of opportunity for existing companies as well. So I'm not, obviously we don't know who's going to be the new players in terms of like these next unicorns, because they're probably coming out now, right? We don't know. But I just know that the at-home work, Zoom, for example, that's a great platform that just took off. Slack, because people are now working from home. That's important. So it's interesting to see. And that will be a good case study to kind of say, how do you make your company, systematically proof? Because there's a systematic risk to coronavirus. It affects all industries everywhere.
Right.
You can't diversify systematic risk. That's not possible. So it will be interesting to see. But so coronavirus has, I would say, it would be fair to assume, positively affected, if that's kind of it's a weird word to use, but it's increased sales and it's increased demand, you would say?
Yeah, the silver lining for bicycle and for outdoor is that it's increased sales fairly significantly.
Yeah.
But of course, that doesn't come without cost.
Sure.
In terms of literal expense, and then now we're getting into some of the human cost in terms of
how tired you are.
yeah, I mean, tired, just stressed. Mental
Yeah.
health, I think, is becoming a situation because again, this kind of goes back to how much can you inform a consumer, and how much does a consumer really care about how the business is operating that they're receiving their product or service from.
Do you think they care?
I think that they do. I think some do, many do, especially when one relates the situation,
Yeah.
and gives them an actual picture to it.
Yeah.
If I have one more person say to me, "Oh man, you must be so overjoyed and ecstatic at how your business is going," and I say, "Well, yeah, I mean, the money coming in is all well and good, and everybody's getting paid, and the volatility is so great that it's still going to be difficult to manage. And if you're running a bar at everybody's thirsty and you have nothing to serve, eventually people stop coming to your bar."
That's right.
And so in the cycling industry right now, product, and this is not including the Walmarts of the world with the quality of product that they sell, which they've all sold out.
Mm.
But in the independent bicycle dealer channel, it's mainly, $400 to $1,200 product. There simply isn't any. And people say, well, what do you mean there isn't any? It's all been bought.
Wow.
I've got some ladies' bikes that'll come in this week, and they literally will probably last about 24 hours on the shelf,
Oh my
whether
God.
through online consumption or, in person. I've got an email this morning with 2 or 3 mountain bikes, which are in the $500 or $600, and I'll put them online when they come, and they'll sell within 24 hours. In fact, I'll probably, because I had some consumers yesterday looking for these bikes, I'll probably double check they aren't already pre-sold, and then I'll call these people, and they'll be pre-sold before they come.
Yeah.
And it's all well and good, but there's nothing on the shelf. And this is where I meant to say that it's going to take 9 months for everything to catch up. And now people are starting to pre-purchase units that are coming in 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks. The only thing that there is in the channel right now is more expensive things, or things that happen to be more expensive, such as electric assist bikes, or higher level mountain bikes, or road bikes,
Sure.
things of that nature. So the commuting thing for e-bikes can definitely take off, and that may, and those prices are valid because that's how much these things cost in that regard. But so that's my answer for how's it going. Yes, it's great.
Yeah.
And it's not free by any means. And I think the smaller the business, the more problematic it is. But I would imagine it's affecting, everybody equally, out there. But no one's really necessarily talking about that aspect of it because, I don't know, I guess to some extent people don't care.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nature's beast.
I think it's been survival of the fittest for most people. They're just trying to take care of themselves, and there's still a ton of people who have no jobs. I mean, it's crazy. I think millions. Another report just came out. Millions of people still do not have a job.
Right.
Yet the market just recovered back to pre-coronavirus levels. So we didn't even have a pure recession. I mean, a recession is, if people don't know, is 2 quarters of negative GDP growth. We didn't even have that. And people were like, this is doomsday. So it's very interesting to see.
Right.
I can't make any predictions. I won't make any predictions because I don't know. I don't think even by law I can. So, but it's interesting. And I would say to you, it's good what you're doing and what you're experiencing. And there's a valid point to saying, if you have no more inventory, at what point do people say, oh, maybe they're just not that reliable, and of course you're a reliable guy. You've been doing this for 14 years. Right. But people don't know that.
Right.
And they might go to somewhere else. And I'm not sure what the cycle, shop industry in Massachusetts is. I imagine I would say fairly competitive with Boston, but
yeah, it's competitive and it's strong. And the reality is that literally no one has that product.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say no one. I heard of one shop that had an $800 bike, but they had a backlog of a month to get it built for someone, which just goes to operations and how people are using their workflow.
Yeah.
But there's literally no product.
Yeah.
And we're just waiting. We're just waiting for it.
It's incredible.
Coming in dribs and drabs. What's happening. So yes, it's strange when people call up and you say, I'm sorry, I don't have anything to satisfy that. And they go, yeah, I know this is the 12th bike shop that I've called, or, hey, which shop am I calling? I've called so many, people calling from all over, New England. I talked to a guy yesterday and he said, yeah, I'm looking for such and such bike. I said, oh yeah, I'm sorry, I don't have it. I had one yesterday, but it's sold. Oh, you know what? I saw that online. Last night at midnight. I said, you should have bought it.
Yeah.
And then he said, he's in Massachusetts and somewhere must be close to us, the Burlington, Lexington area. And he said, yeah, I found, the bikes. I'm looking for 2 bikes for my kids. And I found them in New Hampshire. I said, what are you talking about? Why didn't you buy it? Why didn't you want to drive to New Hampshire? I said, sir, let me let you get off the phone. Call them in New Hampshire and buy the bike there and drive to New Hampshire, because
you're not going to find it.
I couldn't tell you. Now, it just so
Yeah.
happens that today I just got a message that I'd have one of the bikes, but he never emailed me the way I asked him to say to get on my waiting list for it. So
So he's not gonna get it.
so I don't know what he's gonna, I don't know
Yeah.
what he's gonna do. But I mean, people have driven from Connecticut to buy, to buy bikes.
Yeah.
It's
I've seen in the secondary market, in terms of like people just buying and selling their own, has been like insane. The prices I've been seeing are like, oh my God.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I can't even imagine. But we're winding down here. I've
yeah.
been enjoying such a good conversation. And I feel like you've given such a lot of good advice. I have two questions left for you. One is, what advice or what do you love most about being an entrepreneur? And you can answer that, with like the highs and the lows of it or whatever.
So what I like most about it is having the control to either fail or succeed.
Yes.
At the end of the day, I think the saying goes, at the end of the day, good or bad, it is all my fault. And that's got to be the number one. The high of it is control and some flexibility and looking at the future, financially and otherwise.
Yeah.
The low sides are that there's an enormous responsibility for, the 25 odd people that I employ and all the people that they're dealing with. So it's a lot of pressure. There can be a lot of pressure even in the best circumstances. And now with Corona, it's just been chaotic in terms of that. So those are the highs and lows, like every business, especially maybe especially at the small business level where it's, direct to the customer. There's not a huge number of corporate layers for insulation and, overspending and slush, as it were.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it is. That's incredible that a bike shop employs 25 people. I actually didn't. That's like a pretty big number, I think. So that's amazing.
There's
really cool.
shops in the area that employ, have 100 people. So
Wow.
these are, one of our colleagues, they've got 7 stores.
Yeah. I know we don't have enough time, but I think Eastern Mountain Sport is going out of business. I think, or they might. I don't know about maybe REI or some outdoors company, but I imagine that these big retail companies would then, with their demand going away, if they're going out of business, would pass on to you. So that's can only be good for you.
Yeah, I would think, at some point
Yeah.
REI kind of, shut down, their stores. And
Was that REI?
Well, Eastern Mountain Sports has always been up and down, especially with the bike category. So I can't say for sure, but I know at some point during this whole Corona thing that REI shut their physical stores.
That's right.
I don't know whether or not they ever opened them back up even to curbside because there's multiple states. I know at one point Patagonia shut everything down, even their website. They just weren't that's their philosophical bent on it.
Interesting.
One of the, we're definitely going to get stuff from other, someone like REI, but REI is such a big company.
Yeah.
This Corona boom, which is the bike business is now calling it, I think it's a little much, but has actually helped out a lot of shops that were struggling.
Yeah.
Because it's been doing so much business. So in that regard, it's been great. And so some people, this will, be their saving grace. And hopefully we can employ some people that are going to unfortunately not have work in other retail or in hospitality. So, I'm on the lookout for some manager type people who are, have experience working with people, and maybe they may not be a cyclist, but if they know people, then there's going to be opportunity for them.
That's awesome.
In the outdoor industry, because outdoor is going to continue to thrive. As the saying goes, outdoor is always open. And, even as the winter comes here to New England, where I think people are nervous about, getting back inside again, I think people are going to take to outdoor activities more than they ever have. Just the weather.
That's awesome. All right. Well, cool. So that lends itself. How do people get in contact with you? What are the channels?
So lots of channels. First one, you can go to our website, which is CycleLoft.com. So that's cycle as in bicycle, Larry, Oscar, Frank, Thomas.com. You can find us on social media, on Twitter, think cycle_loft. You can find us on Instagram, CycleLoft. You can find us on Facebook, CycleLoft. But just go to cycleloft.com, and, you know, the Google thing to call, the Google thing to message. We've got all of the different aspects there to reach out by email. If you can't reach us on the phone, it's because the phone's ringing too much.
Yes, I can
Send us an
attest
email.
to that.
Yeah, send us an email, and we will get back to you, you know, as soon as possible. Or come by the store, and as we say, wear a mask, have some patience, and we'll serve you as quick as we possibly can.
That's
That's
awesome.
all we can do. That's all we can do.
Cool. Well, Jeff, thank you again. You've been a joy to talk to. I appreciate you taking about 40 minutes of your time to talk to me in this morning.
My pleasure, Jonathan. Nice to speak to you.
Yeah, nice to speak to you. And I hope a lot of people got some actionable tips from you, as I know you gave a lot of good advice. So
I hope so. And thanks for doing the program and getting the word out there for people.
Of course. Yeah. All right. Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate you.
Bye.
Bye.